Am I the pinata? Again?
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. I will now call to order the April 25th, 2024 Clackamas County Board of Commissioners business meeting. Gary Schmidt, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Chair Smith. First staff support today, County Counsel Stephen Madcore, Clerk to the Board Tony Marinick. Roll call, Commissioner Schull.
Here.
Commissioner West.
Here.
Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Commissioner Savas.
Present.
Chair Smith.
Aye, here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic under God, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. We are holding this meeting in person and virtually. If you've joined us via Zoom for this meeting and are interested in providing public comment, we will prompt you regarding how to do that when the time is right. General public comment will be taken at the usual allotted time. I would like to remind all participants, including staff, all elected officials, and members of the public, that Robert's Rules of Order will be followed in this meeting. We welcome your opinions and look forward to your polite participation. I will now recess as a Board of County Commissioners and convene as a Housing Authority Board.
Thank you, Chair Smith. This is the Housing Authority of Clackamas County Board of Directors consent agenda. Joining you online is Housing Resident Commissioner Ann Leenstra. Good morning, Commissioner Leenstra.
Good morning.
Thank you. All right, Tony, would you please read the Housing Authority consent agenda?
Housing Authority, Clackamas County consent agenda. Item 1, approval of a construction contract with A1 Quality Construction for public housing flooring and repair and replacement as needed. Contract value not to exceed $250,000 over 2 years. Funding is through U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development capital grant funds. No county general funds are involved. Item 2, approval of a construction contract with Greater Purpose Construction, LLC for public housing roof repair and replacement. Total contract value, $187,550 for 120 days. Funding is through U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development capital grant funds. No county general funds are involved. Item 3, approval to apply for a Resilient Hubs and Networks grant from the Oregon Department of Human Services to support a resiliency hub at the Hillside Park redevelopment project. The grant value is up to $1 million. Funding through the Oregon Department of Human Services. No county general funds are involved. Item 4, approval to apply for a multifamily incentive package from the Energy Trust of Oregon to promote sustainable building systems at the Hillside Park redevelopment project. Grant value is up to $100,000. Funding through the Energy Trust of Oregon. No county general funds are involved. Item 5, approval of a resolution to appoint Christopher Iosa as the Executive Director of the Housing Authority of Clackamas County. No fiscal impact. No county general funds are involved.
Thank you. Does any commissioner wish to remove anything from this consent agenda? I'll entertain a motion, Ann.
I move we approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
I will second that motion.
Commissioner Leenstra has moved for approval of the Housing Authority consent agenda, and Commissioner West has seconded that. Any further discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the poll?
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Schull.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Leenstra.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Motion passes 6-0. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Commissioner Leenstra, for being here today.
You're welcome.
I will now adjourn as a Housing Authority Board and reconvene as a Board of County Commissioners. Gary, what's next?
Next is a public hearing. Item 1, public hearing on the completion of the Child Care Scholarship Program as required by the Federal Community Development Block Grant Emergency Fund. No fiscal impact, no county general funds are involved. Rod Cook, Director of Health, Housing, Human Services, and Adam Freer, Division Director of Children, Family, and Community Connections will present. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'll hand this right over to Adam Freer. He's the Director of the Children and Families Division. He's going to go over a little bit about the successes of the project for any of the listeners out in the audience.
Good morning, Chair, Commissioners, Administrator. My name is Adam Freer, and I'm the Division Director for the Children, Family, and Community Connections.
Can you pull your microphone closer? Thank you very
Sorry about
much.
that. The Children, Family, Community Connections Division of H3S, which we call CFCC. This is the second hearing for the Child Care Scholarship Project. The funder requires a hearing at both the outset and conclusion of the program. The first hearing was September 22nd, 2022, at which Clackamas County's Early Learning Hub Director, Danny Stam Thomas, presented the funding opportunity for board approval and then successfully coordinated the project. I will take the opportunity of this hearing to briefly report on the outcomes of the project and invite any member of the public to share their thoughts and experiences as well. I'll note that we were also required to provide an opportunity for the public to submit written comments, which we did, and no comments were received. The Child Care Scholarship Project is funded by the federal HUD Community Development Block Grant CARES Act program funds for COVID-19 impact assistance, which was distributed through Business Oregon. The project brief is included in the meeting packet, and I'll provide some highlights for you. The county was awarded $250,000 to distribute to low to moderate income families to pay for child care. The goal was to serve 50 children with a scholarship covering up to 3 months of child care. In the end, through an extraordinary effort from staff and many partners across the county, we were able to fund child care for 79 children from 43 Clackamas families. Roughly half of these were low income and the other half were moderate income. Scholarships range from $150 to $7,125 and averaged $3,084 per child. The funding also helped support 32 different local child care programs, most of which operate as small businesses. The team also wants to express our deep gratitude for the county's administration and internal support departments, especially legal counsel and finance. This project was especially challenging in a number of ways and required strong teamwork from many county staff. So thank them all, and we thank them all for their support, and we're proud of the benefits that our Clackamas County team was able to come together to provide the critical support that family and children in the county need.
Thank you very much. Any further questions or comments? Commissioner Schrader?
I just want to thank you for all the work you've been doing on this. I think this is an essential piece of what we do. It's a part of our whole workforce continuum that we're trying to allow people to get back to work and really have a job and move up that prosperity ladder. And I also wanted to thank you because actually we had HUD come visit us the other day. And I think colleagues, there may be some possibilities that as we expand housing for folks, there seems to be some programs where maybe we can co-locate opportunities for childcare. But thanks for that. It's one of the things that I've always enjoyed working with you on this particular issue.
Likewise.
Thank you. I will now open the meeting for public testimony. I will take in-person testimony first. I do not see anyone who wants to testify on this particular issue at this time in person. Tony, do we have anyone online?
If you would like to testify on the Child Care Scholarship Program public hearing, please use the raise hand feature and I will call on you in the order received. Madam Chair, I do not have any hands raised.
Thank you. I will now close the public hearing and ask if there are any further questions on this particular topic. Gary, is that it?
That's it,
Okay, we're
yes.
not voting on anything today.
No voting, correct.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming forward and making this presentation.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Gary, what's next?
Thank you. Next is the consent agenda. Tony, would you please read the consent agenda?
Elected officials, item 1, approval of previous business meeting minutes for the Board of County Commissioners. Item 2, approval of a grant agreement with the Oregon Department of Justice for Child Abuse Multidisciplinary Intervention Program Services. Total grant award is $1,146,209 plus projected carryover balance from fiscal year 22-23 of $15,949. Funding is through the state of Oregon. No county general funds are involved for the district attorney's office. Item 3, approval of a local subrecipient grant agreement with the Children's Center of Clackamas County for child abuse referral services. Total value is $1,116,000 for 2 years. Funding through the Oregon Department of Justice. No county general funds are involved for the district attorney's office. Item 4, approval of a grant request with the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission for Oregon Behavioral Health Deflection Program. Grant value is $475,254.50 for 15 months. Funding is through Oregon House Bill 4002. No county general funds are involved for the district attorney's office. Item 5, approval of a resolution approving the submission of the assessor's County Assessment Function Funding Assistance Grant application for fiscal year 2024-2025. Total value is approximately $1,350,000 for 1 year. Funding is through the state of Oregon. No county general funds are involved for the county assessor. County Council, item 1, approval of a real property conveyance agreement with the Oregon Liquor and Cannabis Commission. Acquisition costs are approximately $50,000. Funding is through budgeted county general funds. Transportation and Development, item 1, approval of amendment number 1 to the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Happy Valley and Clackamas County relating to the 172nd Avenue Improvement Project. Total project value is now $44,871,873, decreased from $53,278,800. Funding is through the City-County Transportation System Development Charge Joint District Fund, Cash Acknowledgement Funds, and City of Happy Valley Funds. No county general funds are involved. Technology Services, item 1, approval of a board order to issue a purchase order for networking equipment for the replacement county courthouse through a cooperative contract with CDW Government. Total value is $203,933.50. Funding is through budgeted county general funds. Item 2, approval to apply for State of Oregon Broadband Deployment Program funds for Clackamas Broadband Exchange expansion. Anticipated grant value not to exceed $5 million. Funding is through the Oregon Broadband Office. No county general funds are involved. Tourism, item 1, approval to respond to a request for proposals from Travel Oregon for the Regional Cooperative Tourism Program and Oregon Wine Country License Plate Tourism Promotion Program. Anticipated contract value is $3,200,000 over 8 years. Funding through state transient lodging tax revenues. No county general funds are involved. Health, Housing, Human Services, item 1, approval of revenue grant agreement from the Oregon Department of Transportation for operations of the Mount Hood Express. Agreement value is $300,000 for 2 years. Funding is through federal pass-through funds from the Oregon Department of Transportation. No county general funds are involved. Item 2, approval of revenue service agreement with Ride Connection for operations of transportation reaching people. Agreement value is $211,717 for 2 years. Funding is through TriMet General Funds. No county general funds are involved. Item 3, approval of revenue intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Health Authority for Choice Model Services. Agreement value is $1,343,063.50 for 18 months. Funding is through the Oregon Health Authority. No county general funds are involved. Item 4, approval of amendment number 1, extending the duration and funding of a contract with Durgesh LLC, doing business as Econo Lodge Southeast for on-call hotel rooms for temporary housing and shelter. Amendment value is $1,085,500 for 1 year. Contract value increased to $2,106,000 for 2 years. Funding is through Metro Supportive Housing Services Measure funds. No county general funds are involved. Item number 5, approval of a public improvement contract with ASA Construction for the Clackamas Village project. Contract value is $3,211,505.75 for 10 months. Funding is through Metro Supportive Housing Services Measure funds. No county general funds are involved. Madam Chair, that concludes the list.
Thank you for reading that, Tony. Does any commissioner wish to remove anything from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Commissioner West has moved we approve the consent agenda, and Commissioner Schrader has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Would the clerk please call the poll?
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Schull.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Up next, we are already at public communication. This portion of the agenda shall be limited to items of county business which are properly the object of board consideration and should be nonpartisan in nature, as the BCC is a nonpartisan governing body under Oregon Revised Statutes and County Code. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes. Comments shall be respectful and courteous to all. As a reminder, you can email submissions for public communication at bcc@clackamas.us, and these will be accepted as part of the public record. I will now open the meeting for public testimony. I will take in-person testimony first. I do have a blue card here from Brainerd Brower. Did I pronounce that right? Sir, please come forward. Please introduce yourself and your area of residence.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, you did pronounce it right. My name is Brainerd Brower, Redland Community, so 18876 South Lyons
Can you
Road.
pull the microphone closer?
sorry.
We want to hear everything you
All
have
right,
to say.
so I'm from the Redland Community, just east of here, from Oregon City, then address. And my name is Brainerd Brower. You did pronounce it correctly. So I'm trying to bring something to your attention. I presented you with a packet of information. It is broader than this one case. That's the reason I bring it to you. You are elected representatives, so it's appropriate to ask you to fix what seems to be a crack in how groundwater is protected in Clackamas County. So it's much broader than this. Just for transparency, I'll say this because there is a specific case that I'm working on that's affected me, and that's the reason I've discovered this. So I do own a Redland gas station, and I own the vacant lot at Fisher's Mill on Redland Road. I'm a lifelong resident of Redland Community. Redland Community dates back to the 1800s, including, we had our own U.S. Post Office from 1896 to 1908. Redland Store was clearly one of the earliest gas stations on the West Coast. Amazing, but true. Redland Store property clearly discharged gasoline, heating oil, and most recently continued to discharge sewage into surrounding environment. It's much more broader in depth. The issue I bring up, and it makes me reflect on a phrase I coined last year, that complying with insanity is dangerous. And sometimes most notably the way we think. And it comes up here. And one of the debates is something a cesspool when you put sewage in it automatically? When Oregon water resources laws very specifically took a lot of research, very specifically say when you enter into permanent groundwater, you have to deal with it in certain ways. You have to decommission any pit under guidelines the same as a well because it interferes with permanent groundwater. And I'm asking this commission, as our county elected representatives, to bring at least Clackamas County into full compliance with Oregon law to protect groundwater. Takes more detail to get into it than I have. I do not blame Clackamas County soils and ask you not to blame them because they are following DEQ soils guidance, and DEQ is, they're funded by fines, they're funded by, fees. You might be shocked as I am. Please look into it. And it's about sewage directly into groundwater. Please immediately bring Clackamas County into compliance. I do reflect and mention the obvious, that even the Romans did not dump sewage into our groundwater.
Interesting.
It's a big topic, and it shocked us.
Commissioners?
My consultant environmental attorney, who's referenced here in an opinion statement, I provided you a legal opinion statement that I paid for, was surprised.
Okay.
And he's been involved a long time.
Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Brower, for your testimony this morning. We can have the code enforcement look into the Redland gas station issue and see how we can resolve that issue. As far as overall groundwater issue for the county, would have to review that, but.
Yeah, the request is to bring Oregon Water Resources oversight into something that is penetrating permanent groundwater, as defined by ORS, by statute, and administrative rules of Oregon Water Resources. So it's not simply a DEQ soils issue.
Okay, Good. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Savas?
Appreciate you coming here today, bringing this to our attention. I did just quickly peruse everything. There's a lot of material here, but there are a few things I think that are in here that are correct, and that waters are that of the state. Basically, the responsibility is that of the state. Counties are specifically limited in a number of arenas of water provision. So we're not allowed to partake in being water purveyors, for example. So a lot of this is going to take your efforts in dealing with the state and DEQ on this matter, and it sounds to some degree it's also a private matter between you and another property owner as well. But I would definitely like to refer this to just get our opinion from our, not today, but I'd be interested in what our legal staff have to say and find out what we can do to stop this pollution.
Yeah. And it's not just me. That's why I bring it to your attention. And it's soils that is working under the guidance of DEQ that has a narrow window under soils. And then once sewage is in, it's looked as a cesspool. The county here has a form you fill out that says, how have you decommissioned it? But that's it. You sign it, you're done. Water Resources is more specific. If it's a well, if it's clearly penetrating groundwater, a licensed well contractor has to fill out a form. It goes to state Water Resources. They give guidance then on how to deal with it. And that part of it is missing into the county implementation, even though the state would oversee it, yes.
Yeah, I'll just ask our legal counsel what our role is in any of this. So thanks for bringing it to our attention.
It's complicated.
For the record, Mr. Brown has submitted about 10, 11 pages of very technical, single-space information that we have not had a chance to look at.
And an opinion statement from a specialist.
There's an attorney here as well. Mhm. I just flipped through it. Obviously, we can't read it. I'm not even sure what the issue is, to be honest with you. Somebody's not in compliance, where does the buck stop, so to speak? I can't answer any of those questions today. Commissioner Schrader?
Yeah, have you also contacted our legislative delegation, our representatives and state senators?
I have not yet, no.
Yeah, they might be another avenue for you to inform, because they may have more auspice in terms of legislation to take a look at this problem. And I would suggest that if you could do that, do so. I think that would be just as helpful. And I don't know what district you're in or who your legislator is, but it should be easily.
Yeah, I definitely plan to do that because it's broader than Clackamas County.
Yeah.
This discovery. I don't know how other counties have implemented this, but it's broader because of what the Water Master has referred to. The Water Master has said we deal with quantity, not quality, which is fundamentally true, but they do deal with protection. And it took a lot of research into their statutes and their administrative rules to find out, oh no, the Water Master does have jurisdiction here and is required, it appears, to look at this. Now the county on this side, this is the point here, should refer something that gets into groundwater to the state.
Right.
And that's not what's happening today. And that's not really the Soils Department's fault, because I've talked to DEQ at all 3 levels, including the Northwest Regional Director, and their policy is, well, it's a cesspool. It's got sewage. I mean, I even went so far as to tell her, it sounds ludicrous, but it's essentially, if you take a well of any depth, or any kind of hole of any depth, dump sewage in it, it's a cesspool. That's where the concept of insanity comes in. I mean, why are we arguing that? If we're impacting permanent groundwater, we're impacting permanent groundwater. I mean, I'm just besides myself, so I'm sorry, but I appreciate your whatever attention you can bring, at least for our county.
Commissioner West?
Yeah, thank you for taking your time to come and bring this to our attention. And you have provided quite a substantial packet here. I'll read it.
Yeah.
This is be a learning opportunity for me. And then, Gary, I'm just wondering, where can we be collaborative or communicative as a county, helping us find out what our role is so we can all do and play the role that we need to play. So I don't know. What are your thoughts, Gary? I'm curious.
I don't know either. I need to talk with Stephen and our staff. Where is the appropriate place for us here in the county, and then how we collaborate with the state, as Commissioner Schrader mentioned.
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. And I'm confident that we'll be able to explain that and articulate that And yeah, once again, thank you for letting us know about this today.
It comes down to the fundamentals of protecting groundwater and filling in cracks and following the law, even though there's a whole set for DEQ and a whole set for water resources. And I understand how, public servants, it's tough to coordinate that, And it was clear in my talking to a variety of people in the state that if it clearly affected 5 homes, 10 homes, a whole area, then there's folks assigned to that. But when it's localized, whether it's 1, 2 properties, it's kind of like, well, it gets tossed around and it's not being addressed, is what it seems to be the case. So
Kind of falls through the
Yeah.
cracks, no pun intended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I believe the falling through the cracks was something I talked to the Oregon Health Authority was a term they used.
Okay.
Their reaction. And so it's certainly a reaction that I see as well. And yes, I've spent extra money and a legal opinion because this is so important. Yeah.
Thank you.
So
Thank you very much for coming forward and alerting us to this situation.
I appreciate your attention.
Is there anyone else in the room who would like to testify during public communication? Seeing no one. Tony, do we have anyone on Zoom?
Madam Chair, there is not anyone on Zoom at the moment.
Well, thank you. I will now close the public communication portion of this meeting, and we will move on. Gary, what's next?
Next is County Administrator Update. That's me. I like to recognize our county employees during my update. Today, I wanted to recognize Kirsten Ingersoll, who is a Policy Performance and Research Analyst in the Public Health Division of Health, Housing, and Human Services. She received the Lifetime Outstanding Service Award from the Conference of Oregon Local Health Officials. This is a group of local public health officials in the state of Oregon, and she received the Lifetime Outstanding Service Award. She was recognized for her many years of constructive, problem-solving collaboration that is known for being solution-oriented throughout the state. She was noted for continually providing historical context for projects, which helps with planning for public health across the entire state. So congratulations to Kirsten for this honor, and just another example of our outstanding employees who do their very best to serve the public and are recognized statewide for their efforts. That is my update today. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Now is the time for Commissioner communication. Commissioner Scholl, you're up first.
Yes, thank you, and good morning, Clackamas County. Everybody should be receiving their voter pamphlets in the mail, and in there you'll find 4 measures affecting Clackamas County, 1 zoo tax bond, 1 urban renewal measure, and then 2 school bonds, 1 for Malala, 1 for Estacada. So as you look at these, I ask people to stop and give some consideration to these projects, school projects in particular, and make sure as you look at your design and construction that 1, you do not build above code requirements. That gets expensive. Don't add any more green energy than is required, and make sure that you are not exceeding a 20-year payback on those expensive additions to your project. And finally, do not overbuild. And this comes with an example in the county to the north where a school bond was passed for the modernization of Jefferson High School. The bond was $311 million, and now they're looking at a $491 million project. So be frugal and make sure that we don't get caught up in trying to build a Taj Mahal, because these bonds, and we do need some new schools. I'm not saying we don't, but we can mitigate the impact on property tax increases by simply building a reasonable school that meets our needs but doesn't exceed our requirements. It's kind of the same thing for when you go out and buy a car. You know, you buy what you need, avoid buying that Maserati. Yesterday evening, we had the Metro Policy Advisory Committee meeting. Members of the cities in the region and the counties are members of that MPAC. One of the things we talked about was the tipping fee issue. Many of you might have heard about that already. And it was almost unanimous amongst the membership to, again, ask for a delay on the vote today, and also to ask Metro Council to go back and coordinate with the cities and counties that are affected by the Metro decision on tipping fees. And for everybody in the county who's not quite happy with your current career, I would ask you to give some consideration to becoming an emergency medical technician. We need them badly. You can contact the American Medical Response here in the county. You can contact Clackamas Community College, or you can contact our EMS coordinator here in the county, Bill Stewart, to find out how you can go about becoming an emergency medical technician. It's a great career, and for a lot of you young people that need some excitement and challenge, I urge you to look into it. Also on wildfire mapping, the state's been working on this for a couple years now, since the 2020 fires. And I'm concerned about it because the insurance companies will be looking at this. We already have a significant increase going on in property insurance. And so I invite members of the county to go to the Oregon Department of Forestry website and look at the wildfire mapping issue on there and the wildfire urban interface data. And finally, again, the voter pamphlets are out, and I encourage everybody to read them, know the issues, and when your ballot comes in, vote according to your conscience and your best judgment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Savas, you're up.
Yeah, yesterday we had a discussion regarding some budget-oriented things, and a greater discussion, I think, that got quite a bit of interest has been, you know, whether or not our budget is sustainable or structurally sound. And I think that we've been struggling for a number of years with those words, what they mean and what our definition is. And I think it'd be appropriate, once again, make the request that we establish what the definition is and how staff is to apply it, as well as the policy in light of the 30-year commitment for the courthouse behind us. So I think it's really imperative that we be, I thought we had pretty good understanding of what that is, but it's not only unclear to me, but it's obviously unclear to a number of other people that contacted me. So, and it looks like there's also some media interest in some of those questions as well. So I think it might be in our best interest to get some clarity on the budget. It's that season, that time of the year, and I know that we'll be digging into the numbers. And one thing I enjoy about numbers, they don't lie. So I hopefully we can clear that up. And I know there's a lot of media stuff regarding this related to the election, where maybe there's a lot of misinformation's being either or misunderstanding is resulting in misinformation, whichever way it may be. I don't know, you know, but it's that time of the year where there's a lot of interest in the finances of the county, and whether it's public safety or the courthouse or roads or whatever it may be. But I think it's time to at least prepare and have the board well-versed. And I think the handicap this year for me has been that we regularly have had quarterly budget meetings with our budget committee. And this last 12 months, we really haven't had one until kind of one yesterday, but absent a forecast. discussion about how we prepare. So I have a lot of questions, and I'll be working with staff between now and Tuesday, or now and Monday. And I might bring this up on Tuesday as well, many unanswered questions, but just hoping to clear this up a little bit and get some greater definition again of what is a sustainable, structurally sound budget. And I believe that the context was that we've been aiming for was a structurally sound budget, obviously where you have great accuracy, or somewhat pretty good accuracy with a 5-year forecast. But I think and I applaud staff, I applaud our financial staff for seeing the charge, and the charge has been, how do we make sure that we can make the debt service payments for the courthouse for 30 years going on? So the payments in that whole P3 model. And I think that was what the spirit and the intent is, and I think that's where we need to make sure we can do that. So that's what I have for today, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Savas. Up next, Commissioner Schrader.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's great to be here today with my colleagues. To Paul's point, I actually did sit with Nancy Bush, and I got a kind of a white paper on P3 models. I can get that to you, Commissioner, where they've been used. They have been used for other courthouses and other public buildings, what the funding model is, and how that all works together. One of the things I thought that was unusual that I found out, well, maybe not unusual, but surprised, actually the model's been used very extensively, believe it or not, in higher education building for colleges and universities and things like that. So I think I agree with you. We have to have clarity with what this actually is and how it works, because using it now for other public facilities other than higher ed seems to be becoming more and more prevalent across the United States. So I think it's good to have that information so people get clarity, and they see that we didn't just invent this. It has been something that's been in process for a while and developed and used in other milieus. So I think that's important just to know that. I had got good news the other day where, again, with my work with the National Association of Counties, I've just been appointed to the Economic Mobility Leadership Advisory Council. And what that will mean for our county is that they will actually help fund my trips. So I'm trying to save the county money with that. But because I'm on that particular board and they see it as so important, they're going to be helping to finance those of us who have been chosen to go to the NACO, at least to this next NACO meeting and other meetings that they may have to call. So it's one of the reasons I like NACO. They do understand that it is problematic for commissioners to do that, so they do try and give as many scholarships and opportunities as possible. So that's good news for me. The other thing I wanted to give a quick report on is we had an opportunity to listen to Manny Lamar, and he is the Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Employment and Training Administration at the U.S. Department of Labor. So he talked to our committee about the labor's apprenticeships resources and apprenticeship funding opportunities. Apprenticeships are really kind of crucial to us because they combine paid on-the-job training with classroom instruction to prepare people for very, very highly skilled careers. They get a skill-based education, and it really is preparation for a good paying job. So what does the Department of Labor do with that? Its role is to safeguard the welfare of apprentices, ensure equality of access to programs, provide integrated employment and training information to apprenticeship sponsors and the local employment and training community. And you can go online to apprenticeship.gov, and that is a one-source stop for any information that you need to find out about apprenticeships, and you can even drill down into what has actually been happening here with us. The other, and by the way, I think this is already passed, or not quite, but May 5th through 11th, 2024 is going to be Youth Apprenticeship Week. I was thinking maybe we could do some kind of a resolution, but that would be up to you folks if you think that might be a good idea. I think the most important thing, though, I want to inform everybody, on April 9th, Okay, the Stronger Workforce for America Act, the U.S. House of Representatives passed this bipartisan bill, H.R. 6655, and that is the reauthorization dollars for the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. This is a big deal for us because it's really the largest single source of funding for workforce development activities, and in particular with counties, it helps us overcome challenges facing job seekers and employers. We're continuing to lobby and work with the Senate to protect the key provisions and while finding solutions to other problematic provisions. It dedicates 50% of the adult and dislocated worker funding toward upskilling workers through individual training accounts. It includes digital literacy skills as a core component of adult education. It streamlines the eligible training provider list to focus on outcomes and ensure that eligible programs are aligned with the skills and hiring demands of employers. Think CHIPS here, folks, and think of those businesses that are also the supply chain opportunities for CHIPS. And it requires 65% of youth funds statewide to be dedicated towards serving opportunity youth, and allows states to work with their local boards to determine the appropriate percentage for each local area. And when we said opportunity youth, it was formerly called out of school youth. So it's also a program that once a kid's out of school, high school, or whatever, and they need any additional training, there's opportunities to get them hooked into that. So for me, workforce is a huge issue because it's a way of building, moving people to prosperity and out of poverty. It's also the reason why I really want to keep working on childcare and daycare, because it allows parents to get back to work. So again, they can move up the prosperity ladder, and that they are upwardly mobile and can get there and then stay that way. So thanks. That's the news for me today.
Thank you, Commissioner Schrader. Up next, Commissioner West.
Thank you, Chair. I am, will be a little bit brief today, I think. I always try, but I'm not always successful. I had been just having conversations with John Wentworth, our DA, and we had just multiple conversations about where does Clackamas County stack up compared to the other, there's 36 counties, for those listening that may not know, there are 36 counties of all varying size and populations. Here in Oregon, we are one of 36. We are one of the large counties. We're the third largest county by population. We have a pretty good amount of land mass here too. And we're unique in the fact that we do a lot of things in our county that the other large counties do not do, that we are responsible for here in Clackamas on the Board of County Commissioners. And so just talking with John about, like, well, you know, we've always made a priority that we're a safe community, a safe county, that public safety is essential to a good working government. We have a failing local government if you're not safe. Your community doesn't feel safe. If you call 911 and we can't show up, or we can't prosecute or deal with criminality, that is a sign that your local government has failed and is in failure. It is one of the biggest indicators on whether or not your local government is healthy and doing the most essential functions that are delegated to it is the protection of the person, property, and their property. Someone's personhood and their property against violent crime or property crime. And so through those conversations with John Wentworth, we started to dig in, mostly John did, but we kind of did some digging in to the reported victims as a percentage of county and population. And this data comes from the Oregon State Police specifically. And you can break it down by county in all 36. And there's some really key takeaways, I think, about Clackamas County. I think these really great takeaways are directly associated to good public policy and making sure that we continue to make public safety a top priority in this county. We fund it at record levels. We continue to increase the funding to the sheriff's office. We continue to, what did we just buy, $4 million in new police vehicles. We made sure the DA had new record funding this last budget cycle. We are looking forward to making sure that we're good partners with those agencies that provide public safety. and here's the direct policy outcomes from a board that has been steadfast in this effort, a county that has partnered well with its public safety partners, and the good work that they are doing, specifically the men and women that wear the badge on the ground. Key takeaways. Clackamas County is the safest large county in Oregon. It's not close. By far, we are the safest large county. Now,
Yes.
we have how many of the fastest growing cities?
At least 5.
At least five or
in the
six,
state.
right? So, and our property tax, why are our property taxes? Because people are moving here. That means they're leaving somewhere else. Why are they coming to Clackamas County? Because we're big enough to provide them the amenities, the resources, and the quality schools that they need while also being safe. And so they're coming to Clackamas County. That's why our cities continue to grow. We are the safest, largest county in Oregon. Clackamas County is the safest county out of the entire state with more than 90,000 residents in it. Now, we're pushing 440,000 residents. It won't be too far away till we're at 450 because we continue to grow. But we are the safest county with more than 90,000 residents. Clackamas County is the 8th safest county overall. Now, some of these counties have just a couple thousand people in them. They're more of a frontier, rural counties. But out of all 36, regardless of size, we are the 8th safest, and we are still a part of the greater Portland area, and we are one of the big counties that are part of Metro. And even with those challenges of sharing a 10-mile border with Multnomah County, we still are the 8th safest. Almost a third of Multnomah County's population reports being a victim of crime in the last 3 years. A third of the largest county with the bulk of Portland's population reports being a victim of a crime. We don't have that in Clackamas County. A person is twice as likely to be a victim of crime in Multnomah County as they are in Clackamas County. Twice as likely. The 4 safest cities in Oregon are also in Clackamas County. They're probably on that list of fastest growing too.
Could be.
We really do have a tale of 2 counties in some aspects. We don't have to say much because we can kind of show by our actions and our outcomes that we will prioritize our key functions and core functions, and it is public safety, safe communities. Clackamas County is steadfast in its moral and ethical duty to protect personhood and property of those that own property, including our businesses. So I thought that was really important data to highlight today that I got working with John Wentworth, our DA, whose office is doing a stellar job. Working a lot this week on the LIPSIC group, which includes John Wentworth, the sheriff, Ann Laniger, the former county commissioner, also a judge, and others, as we try to figure out this deflection thing that we're trying to.
For Measure 110.
Measure 110.
Reform.
So there is some. We're trying to get the structure and the basics kind of out there to apply for the funding. We talked about that earlier this week. So I have another meeting about that tomorrow night, or maybe it's tonight, I'll have to look, but here this week too, we're meeting more frequently as we try to get that off the ground and then come back to this board with our suggestions. And I want to highlight, this is a little bit personal for me, but I think it's important that we highlight some of these, I think, big but often never talked about legislative actions. This one's coming out of Washington, D.C. It's H.R. 7411, which is being sponsored by Lori Chavez Dreamer. She is the congresswoman that has the bulk, not all of the county, but the bulk of it. And it's called the Recover Pride in Service Act. It's personal to me because my spouse is going to D.C. this weekend to work with Lori to promote this piece of legislation. What does this legislation do? When my spouse served in the Air Force with a top secret clearance, there was not even a don't ask, don't tell. You just couldn't be out. And as a 17-year-old, 18-year-old young man from Astoria, Oregon, still trying to figure out who he was and what all that is about during that era, he wasn't able to be honest about what he was figuring out, his sexuality or anything like that. While he served in the Air Force honorably with that top secret clearance, with a higher scrutiny than other service members, they came out with don't ask, don't tell. But that still he lived under the threat of him being a gay man, him being dishonorably discharged. and thousands were dishonorably discharged, not because of their service or the job that they did in this country, but solely because they were gay or lesbian individuals. This piece of legislation goes back and says if you were solely discharged dishonorably based on your sexuality, we will reverse that here, and if you served in the armed forces. It's such a contrast. Now I'm a newer officer in the Navy. Everybody knows that, but I don't have that same weight or cloud over me or fear that my whole life will be potentially ruined with a dishonorable discharge solely because of who I am. And so I'm really proud of this effort that Congresswoman Lori Chavez Dreamer is championing, and very honored that somebody in my family was chosen and told their story back in D.C. with a number of members of Congress from all over the country, and other groups advocating that we do the right thing, and we go back and give people an honorable discharge who were discharged otherwise just because they were part of the LGBT community. And I'm excited about that, and I'm excited that that's coming out of Clackamas County, with one of our colleagues that we work well with. And I just wanted to highlight that that is happening and that it's gaining steam, and I hope that it makes it through the legislative process and the president signs it when it's on his desk. A dishonorable discharge is so negative, it can impact your health benefits going forward, your ability to get a job, your ability to have your military retirement. I mean, and dishonorable discharge is definitely a scarlet letter that hangs on someone's neck in a way that really inhibits them from having a full and productive life. And there's no win-win for us there to do that to people that have been dishonorably discharged based on solely just being who they are. And so I think with this piece of legislation, which is rooted out of Clackamas County, we are becoming our better selves and living to our better ideals. So I wanted to share that with you guys, that that's happening in D.C. this weekend, and Clackamas County will be represented as our constituents and friends go and advocate to do the right thing.
Thank you, Commissioner West. This week, I've tried to focus my attention on farming and the status of farming in Clackamas County. I do think, and Martha Schrader and probably the board is in agreement when I ask the question, should we be able to feed ourselves? And that's becoming more and more of a threat and possibly could go into extinction if we're not able to do some very innovative things with our small farms. Commissioner Schrader and I met with Aubrey Comerford, the agritourism coordinator with the Oregon State Extension Service, and her colleague, Melissa Ferry. Although they're working in other counties in the Willamette Valley, they have some very robust agritourism farms in their area. And we're working with our local planning and staff to do that. Commissioner Schrader and I are also dedicated to seeing this through to the Oregon legislature if we should need any legislation to allow for what I have termed is value-added products, value added to the crops that you're growing. And that can be in many forms. Most farms are able to grow and produce and off-site sales, but there's a middle area in there where most of the profits from farmers are off to some other co-op or producer that takes most of the profits. For instance, I'll use myself as an example. Fourth-generation farmer. We've taken over the family farm decades ago, and we grow hazelnuts. Well, we can plant the trees and trim the trees and do all what's necessary according to the Oregon Department of Agriculture's regulations because it is a food that we sell. We process the nuts, pick them up, and we haul them to a co-op. It's basically called a co-op, where then they sell them on the open market, where they will make 80% of the profit that a farmer should take. And the reason why, for instance, in this case, my farm will be denied the ability to make that profit is because I cannot process the nuts into a package and sell them retail or to the grocery stores. Somebody else is doing that for me. It's because of the zoning laws. The zoning laws in agricultural lands. And whenever we broach this subject, we need to change some of the zoning laws. You have people on this side, and you know it's my left hand. the far left saying, you're destroying farms and you're going to have multiple units on your farm. No, we just want to be able to survive as farmers and feed people who like to eat food. And that's where we are in this state. It's really time we start thinking about saving farms, feeding ourselves, and doing what's necessary to perpetuate that. Later in the afternoon, to complement this meeting, I took a tour of the Wooden Shoe Tulip Farm. And I've known these people forever. They're great farms. It's a multi-generational farm. And they are struggling just like everybody else. What do we grow? There is not a crop that they can grow on their farm right now that is profitable to even pay their family members to work on it. They sell tulip bulbs. They have a vineyard where they take their grapes out, make wine, they bring it back in and sell it. When people are out there, they buy their wine. They used to grow potatoes or green beans. Now they're doing crimson clover and grass seed on a contract basis out to another farmer. And they too have hazelnuts. And my point is this: we need to do what we can to secure the livelihoods of people on this farm so you folks can eat something that's not packaged and freeze-dried and processed to the nth degree where there is no nutrient in that food. And so Martha Schrader and I are working on that. We're very dedicated to seeing this through. Martha is a farmer, former farmer. I'm a current farmer. Just wanted to let you folks know that's what they're doing. Regarding the courthouse funding, I want to ask this question. Since when is it bad to build a $313 million courthouse without raising your taxes? I want to close with that. We have a very sustainable, wonderful budget. And that's what we do in Clackamas County. We find ways to pay for things with the money we have. Seeing no further business before this commission, we are adjourned.